Long-term. Lasting or having an effect over a long period of time. For example, our long-term goal is to lower operating costs by 10%.
Magazine. A type of large thin book with a paper cover that you can buy every week or month, containing articles, photographs, etc., often on a particular topic, a similar collection of articles, etc. that appears regularly online. For example, a weekly or monthly magazine.
March. The third month of the year, between February and April. For example, she was born in March.
May. The fifth month of the year, between April and June. For example, she was born in May.
Meantime. For a short period of time but not permanently. For example, I'm changing my email address but for the meantime you can use the old one.
Meter. A unit for measuring length, 100 centimeters. For example, a 50-meter swimming pool.
Midnight.
Midnight. 12 o'clock at night. For example, she heard the clock strike midnight.
Minute.
Minute. Extremely small. For example, minute amounts of chemicals in the water.
Minute.
Minute. Extremely small. For example, minute amounts of chemicals in the water.
Modern.
Modern. Of the present time or recent times. For example, the modern industrial world. Moment. A very short period of time. For example, could you wait a moment? Monday. The day of the week after Sunday and before Tuesday, the first day of the working week. For example, it's Monday today.
Month. Any of the 12 periods of time into which the year is divided, for example May or June. For example, the months of July and August are the hottest.
Monthly. Happening once a month or every month. For example, a monthly meeting or visit a magazine.
Moon. The round object that moves around the Earth once every 27.5 days and shines at night by light reflected from the sun. For example, the surface of the moon.
Morning. The early part of the day from the time when people wake up until 12 o'clock in the middle of the day or before lunch. For example, they left for Spain early this morning. Never. Not at any time, not on any occasion. For example, you never help me. Newspaper. A set of large printed sheets of paper or a website containing news, articles, advertisements, etc. and published every day or every week, the organization responsible for producing this. For example, a daily/weekly newspaper.
Night.
Night. The time between one day and the next when it is dark, when people usually sleep. For example, at night.
Noon. 12 o'clock in the middle of the day. For example, we should be there by noon.
November. The 11th month of the year, between October and December. For example, she was born in November. Now. Because the thing mentioned is happening or has just happened. For example, now that the kids have left home, we've got a lot of extra space.
Nowadays. At the present time, in contrast with the past. For example, nowadays most kids prefer going online to reading books.
O'clock. Used with the numbers 1 to 12 when telling the time, to mean an exact hour. For example, he left between 5 and 6 o'clock.
Occasional. Happening or done sometimes but not often. For example, he works for us on an occasional basis.
Occasionally.
Occasionally. Sometimes but not often. For example, we occasionally meet for a drink after work. Occupy. To fill or use a space, an area, or an amount of time. For example, the bed seemed to occupy most of the room.
October. The 10th month of the year, between September and November. For example, she was born in October.
Off. Down or away from a place or at a distance in space or time. For example, I fell off the ladder.
Often.
Often. Many times. For example, we often go there.
Once. As soon as, when. For example, we didn't know how we would cope once the money had gone.
Overnight.
Overnight. During or for the night. For example, we stayed overnight in London after the theatre.
Part-time. For part of the day or week in which people work. For example, she's looking for a part-time job.
Past. Later than something. For example, 2:30.
Pause. To stop talking or doing something for a short time before continuing. For example, Anita paused for a moment.
Permanent. Lasting for a long time or for all time in the future, existing all the time. For example, she was unable to find a permanent job.
Post-war. Existing, happening, or made in the period after a war, especially the Second World War. For example, the post-war years. Postpone. To arrange for an event, etc. to take place at a later time or date than originally planned. For example, postpone something.
Progress.
Progress. To improve or develop over a period of time, to make progress. For example, the course allows students to progress at their own speed. Pursue. To do something or try to achieve something over a period of time. For example, to pursue a goal. Quick. Done with speed, taking or lasting a short time. For example, a quick look/check/search.
Rapid.
Rapid. Happening quickly or in a short period of time. For example, rapid change, expansion, a growth, a development.
Regularly.
Regularly. At regular intervals or times. For example, we meet regularly to discuss the progress of the project.
Saturday. The day of the week after Friday and before Sunday. For example, it's Saturday today.
Schedule.
Schedule. To arrange for something to happen at a particular time. For example, schedule something for something.
Second.
Second. After one other person or thing in order or importance. For example, she came second in the marathon.
Second.
Second. after one other person or thing in order or importance. For example, she came second in the marathon.
Second.
Second. After one other person or thing in order or importance. For example, she came second in the marathon.
Second.
Second. After one other person or thing in order or importance. For example, she came second in the marathon.
Secondary.
Secondary. Connected with teaching children of 11 to 18 years. For example, secondary teachers.
Secondly.
Secondly. Used to introduce the second of a list of points you want to make in a speech or piece of writing. For example, firstly.
September. The 9th month of the year, between August and October. For example, she was born in September.
Serial. Doing the same thing in the same way several times, done in the same way several times. For example, a serial rapist.
Short term. Lasting a short time, designed only for a short period of time in the future. For example, a short-term loan.
Shortly. A short time, not long. For example, she arrived shortly after us.
Simultaneously. At the same time as something else. For example, the game will be broadcast simultaneously on TV and radio.
Since.
Since. From an event in the past until a later past event, or until now. For example, Kath hasn't phoned since she went to Berlin.
Since.
Since. From an event in the past until a later past event, or until now. For example, Kath hasn't phoned since she went to Berlin.
Slow. Not moving, acting or done quickly, taking a long time, not fast. For example, a slow pace/speed.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Occasionally rather than all of the time. For example, sometimes I go by car.